attended, I don't know how many trade shows. It's too many to count at this point, which a lot of individuals in this industry have done so. And you'll know, you kind of get into a rhythm of the show schedule, get there on Wednesday, check in, register. First day of exhibiting is usually Thursday. You have a full day. Friday, you have a full day. Saturday, everyone is exhausted by Saturday. When Saturday rolls around, the energy in the room is a little quieter, it's a little weaker. Everyone is really, really excited to go home, see their families, and that's just kind of the vibe of the room on that day. But the last day, in my experience, has always been the day when I make the most sales. So just like we all do, the physicians, the attendees at the conference procrastinate. They will procrastinate to come see you every single day. You'll start to see a rhythm. You'll start to see, okay, the first day, the attendees just kind of check out the room, see what's available, who's there, what companies are there. The second day, they might come over and introduce themselves, ask a couple of questions. When they get a few questions, then, well, I can't make a decision yet. I need to talk to my practice manager. And then maybe the next break, you'll meet the practice manager. You might meet another partner. So there's always a process through the 2.5 days of just selling and answering questions all the way to the close. Hopefully the close happens for you. But where I have found the most closes is that last day, and it's a rush. So they know I'm getting ready to pack up, and I mean, literally, as soon as I hear that tape, it's like, all right, this is when I'm gonna get out my order forms. So I'll hear somebody else, another exhibitor, packing up, and whether they're packing up because they feel that the traffic is slow and it's just not going to happen for them, so they're not going to spend any more time in the exhibit hall, they're just going to take off. I don't know everyone's reason for taking off early. It could be a simple matter of having a plane to catch. So sometimes travel, it just, the way it works out, you have to leave a little bit earlier than everybody else. So that is what it is. But if you want to make the most sales on the last day or throughout the entire weekend, you have to stay till the end. So that's the first bit of advice, is staying till the end, because of just the general pattern of physicians procrastinating to the end to talk to you or to get all of their questions answered and to really sit on your offer and make a final decision for you to walk away with an actual order. Now, at some shows, this doesn't happen all the time, but there are a handful that have an optional exhibit day. And those are the days that really do also make a giant impact on your bottom line, because there are not very many exhibitors that stay for that optional day. Yes, it is another day at the hotel, so you're going to have another room night for the fee, which obviously costs more money. And you're going to have a little bit more money in more meals. I mean, everybody's going to eat every single day. So you're going to eat breakfast and lunch if the show is not providing those things to you. So yes, there are more travel expenses if you're going to stay an extra day for an optional exhibit day that has been offered to you. But if you can think about the takeaway, if you close 1, 2, 3 more sales on that optional day, A, you've covered those additional travel expenses. B, if you do your job right and you have a good product or service, you've probably got a long-term customer now, so that's going to be recurring revenue. So when you calculate the expenses and the time for that one, it could just even be one new account, it pays for itself 100 times over. So it's definitely worth it to stay, 100% stay till the end. Do not tear down early. I'm not going to say I've never been guilty of it myself. I have been. And those are the meetings that I wish I could redo, because I want to know what I could have done in those last couple of hours. Was there somebody who was coming to see me and I missed them? Once they go back to their office, you're not going to get a hold of them. Okay, I shouldn't say you're not going to get a hold of them. The chance that you're going to get a hold of them is much less than being able to bring them over to your booth that day, face-to-face, answer their questions right then and there, and just get it done. So do not tear down early. If you have an optional exhibit day, take it, because the face-to-face time is the richest form of communication time that you can have with these individuals, and you don't get it very often unless you go to another show, but then you're not going to see the same people. It's not like that physician's just going to travel with you from show to show. So you might see that physician just one time a year, and this is the time where you're going to have to really make that time with him or her count.
True. Now, when you're planning your flights, do you book flights taking into consideration exhibit hours? And if there is not an optional day, how do you weigh the pros and cons of, say, the exhibit hall closes at 5 p.m. on the third day, or even 2 p.m., but your last flight out is 3 or 4, you know you have to leave early. Do you stay the extra day even though there's not an optional day?
So that is a great question, because there is always time and money to consider. So I think it really depends on the show. I live in Central Illinois, so I have a small regional airport that I used to fly out of. I used to fly out of Peoria, and I think it has 9 gates. It's really, really tiny. Getting out of Peoria to a show on time for registration and setup, not a problem. I can always get there on time because I can get there early. You basically have the whole day. So when I would leave and I would fly back to Peoria, I would be really upset because, let's say a show, the final break was at 3 o'clock, and ultimately there are only 2 flights. I could get to Chicago, no problem. I can get from, let's say I'm in Orlando. I could get from Orlando to Chicago between 3 and 6 o'clock without an issue. But getting a flight from Chicago to Peoria, I have maybe maybe 2 options throughout the whole day. Definitely not 3 or 4. So that was always really tricky for me in terms of timing how I'm going to get home, because certain shows, I didn't want to stay an extra night. There wasn't an optional day. So Saturday, you were done. I want to get home on Saturday without fail. I don't want to stay till Sunday morning, have the extra room night, have the time wasted from just my life at home and doing the things that I need to do to catch up from being gone and out of the office. So I always would look at the exhibit hall plan and the traffic hall plan ahead of time. So most shows will provide it to you, and they're usually pretty accurate. Sometimes they might be off by an hour or 2 in terms of when teardown actually is, but most of the time they're pretty accurate. So the other little just tidbit there, I will say fly Southwest. I always fly Southwest because as a business traveler, I make a ton of flight changes. And so I don't want to spend $200 in change fees or cancellation fees every time an exhibit hall schedule changes. So if I had planned to stay that night and then I realized that we're tearing down much earlier than I expected. I had this happen in Buffalo, New York, actually. So I thought we were going to exhibit until 5 o'clock. And I do not tear down early. So I was staying until 5 o'clock. There was no way I was going to get a flight home that late. So I had to stay until the next morning. And I had, the very first flight booked next morning on Sunday. So that's fine, not a big deal. But they said, hey, the hotel messed up. The exhibit hall is closing early, so we're tearing down at 11. So I'm tearing down at 11 a.m. now instead of 5 p.m. I am not staying a whole nother night for that. That's not worth my time. So made the change to my flights. Not a problem because I fly Southwest. It's worth staying until the exhibit hall actually closes and just get a flight out early in the morning. 2 reasons. 1, the obvious that I already mentioned, that you could potentially have another close. You could get a new customer or get repeat business from a current customer. And then B, it is kind of nice not to rush. Rushing to get to the flight is so stressful. My blood pressure, I have anxiety out the wazoo regardless. I don't need the pressure of thinking I'm going to miss my flight because I can't get my boxes figured out how to ship them out on time in the exhibit hall. An added stress. It's just too much for me to handle. So it's nice to be able to just take your time, pack up your boxes slowly, make sure everything's going in there folded, nothing's going to get broken, it's padded, it's going to go out on time, it's not going to get lost in the hotel. I can't tell you how many times hotels have lost my boxes. I don't know if it was my fault, if it was their fault. Usually the times I'm rushed. So just take your time and go out to a nice dinner, kind of reward yourself for getting through the show. You made it till the very end. When other people were tearing down, you weren't tearing down. You stuck it out till the end. You did either your own company a service or you did a company that they sent you to represent them a service. And hopefully you walked away with some new accounts. And that's definitely worth celebrating because it is hard. It is hard to sell at these trade shows. I totally get it. So celebrate with a nice dinner, get a really good rest, and then fly home to your family well rested the next day and actually enjoy your Sunday.